The night the Duke arrived, rain clawed at the windows of the Hawthorne estate like a warning. Servants whispered behind curtains, candles trembled, and two sisters stood at the top of the grand staircase, knowing that by dawn, one life would be forever changed, and the other might finally end. Remember, Lord Edwin Hawthorne muttered under his breath as the carriage wheels ground to a halt outside, take the pretty one. He did not look at both daughters when he said it. He only looked at Liriana. And that perhaps was the first mistake anyone ever made about Elowen Hawthorne. Elowen had learned early how to disappear while standing in plain sight. At 22, she was tall and soft-spoken, with thoughtful gray eyes and hair the color of autumn ash. Not ugly, never ugly, but ordinary in a house where beauty was currency and affection was rationed like bread during famine. Her younger sister Liriana was the opposite, golden-haired, bright-eyed, and praised so often she believed the world owed her devotion. Their mother had died when Elowen was 12, and with her went the last gentle hand that ever brushed Elowen's hair without calculation. Lord Hawthorne had debts, heavy ones. Gambling, failed investments, and a pride that refused to bend had hollowed out the family fortune. When the Duke of Ravenshire announced he was seeking a wife and wished to visit several noble houses, Lord Hawthorne saw salvation arrive on 4 black horses. Duke Alaric Vale of Ravenshire was known across the realm. Some said he was cold as winter steel. Others whispered he was cursed, widowed within a year, his first wife dead under circumstances no one could quite explain. He was wealthy beyond imagination, powerful enough to bend courts, and distant enough to terrify men who relied on charm and smiles. Lord Hawthorne believed charm would be enough. The doors opened, and Duke Alaric stepped inside with the weight of silence following him. He was not handsome in the way ballads describe heroes, but he was arresting, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, carrying himself like a man who had buried more than one dream and learned to live anyway. His gaze swept the hall once, measured, observant, missing nothing. Liriana curtsied perfectly, her smile rehearsed. Elowen followed a half-step behind, her dress plainer, her posture careful. "This is my eldest," Lord Hawthorne said quickly, gesturing vaguely. "Elowen. And this is Liriana." The Duke's eyes lingered, not on Liriana, as expected, but on Elowen. Just for a breath. Long enough for her to feel exposed as though someone had finally seen the years she had swallowed her words and carried other people's burdens in silence. Dinner was a performance. Liriana laughed brightly. Lord Hawthorne boasted shamelessly. The Duke listened more than he spoke, and Elowen, seated farthest from him, answered only when addressed, but he addressed her often. He asked about the estate's workers, about the old oak near the river, about the library's missing wing long abandoned. Elowen answered honestly. She spoke of droughts and repairs, of teaching village children to read, of the way the oak leaned but never fell. Her voice was calm, unpolished, real. Lord Hawthorne grew tense with every word. Later that night, when the Duke retired to his chambers, Lord Hawthorne cornered him near the study. "My lord," he said with a strained smile, "Illyriana is the beauty, the jewel, young, charming, adored by all. Surely she is the one you should consider." Duke Alaric studied him with eyes that had weighed men on battlefields and found them wanting. "You are eager," the Duke said quietly. "I am practical," Lord Hawthorne replied. "Elowen is adequate, but Liriana is exceptional." Silence stretched. "I will decide for myself," the Duke said. Upstairs, Elowen stood by her window, watching rain blur the world into something soft and indistinct. She did not hope. Hope had never rewarded her. The proposal came 2 days later. The household gathered. Lord Hawthorne smiled too broadly. Liriana clasped her hands, already imagining silks and crowns. Duke Alaric turned, not to Liriana, but to Elowen. "I would ask you to become my wife," he said simply. The room fractured. Liriana gasped. Lord Hawthorne froze. Elowen felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "Me?" she asked, the word barely more than breath. "Yes." Lord Hawthorne found his voice. "Oh, my lord, surely you—" "I am sure," the Duke interrupted. "I choose Elowen Hawthorne." That night, Liriana wept with fury. Lord Hawthorne raged behind locked doors, and Elowen sat alone, trembling, not with joy but with fear. She knew rejection. She did not know choosing. The wedding was modest by ducal standards, but whispers followed Elowen down the aisle like shadows. People wondered what flaw the Duke must carry to choose the lesser sister. Others assumed Elowen had trapped him with cunning. Elowen herself wondered if she would ever be enough. Life at Ravenshire was not gentle at first. The castle was vast, its halls echoing. Servants bowed but watched her closely. The Duke was respectful but distant, burdened by responsibilities and ghosts. At night, Elowen lay awake, listening to the wind and wondering when she would fail. Her first challenge came swiftly. The people of Ravenshire did not trust her. They remembered the Duke's first wife, beautiful, aloof, uninterested in their lives. They expected the same. So Elowen did what she always had. She listened. She visited the kitchens, learned names. She walked the village paths, spoke with mothers and farmers, helped mend what could be mended. So she reopened the abandoned library wing and filled it with books for children and adults alike. Some scoffed, but others noticed. The Duke noticed. One evening, he found her reading by firelight, surrounded by village children who leaned against her skirts as though she belonged there. "You have changed this place," he said quietly after they left. "Why, I'm only doing what I know," Elowen replied. Ulrich watched her, something unguarded in his eyes. "That," he said, "is exactly why I chose you." The second challenge came from within the walls. A councilman accused Elowen of overstepping her role. A noblewoman mocked her plain gowns. Rumors spread that she lacked the breeding to stand beside a duke. Elowen faltered, but did not retreat. She learned governance. She studied accounts. She stood beside Alaric in council chambers and asked questions no one expected her to ask. Slowly, respect replaced doubt. The hardest challenge came when Lord Hawthorne fell ill. Elowen returned to her childhood home to find debts worse than she had known. Liriana, bitter and frightened, blamed Elowen for everything. "You stole my life," Liriana hissed. Elowen did not argue. She paid the debts. She saved the estate. And when Liriana broke down, sobbing with the weight of unmet expectations, Elowen held her. "I never wanted to be chosen over you," Elowen said softly. "I only wanted to be seen." That night, something fragile healed. Years passed. Elowen became known as the Grey Duchess, the quiet strength behind Ravenshire's prosperity. The Duke's people flourished. Trade grew. Peace held. And Alaric, once distant, learned to laugh again. On the anniversary of their wedding, he took her to the old oak by the river. "You were never the rejected sister," he said, taking her hands. "You were the one the world overlooked." Elowen smiled, tears bright in her eyes. "And you," she said, "were the one who looked twice." The rain fell softly, no longer a warning, but a blessing. And far away, in a house once ruled by pride, Lord Hawthorne understood too late that beauty fades, but worth endures. The Duke had chosen wisely. Not the pretty one, but the true one, but the true one, but the true one. And in doing so, he taught an entire realm a lesson it would never forget, that those overlooked often carry the deepest strength, and that sometimes being rejected is the very thing that leads you home.